Purple dingbat.
Purple dingbat.
Purple dingbat.
Purple dingbat.
Purple dingbat.
You've probably heard of cherry picking. Cherry picking is just one of the manipulation techniques that political campaigns use to sell their product, the candidate, and to tear down the competition. Purple Dingbats is an ongoing project to share these techniques with the American voter.
PD number 2, The Music Man. Fear hacks, dog whistles, and memory hacks.
One, two, three, 4, 5, 7, 6, 8, 9,
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
These are the stakes. To make a world in which all of God's children can live, or to go into the dark. We must either love each other, or we must die.
Vote for President Johnson on November 3rd. The stakes are too high for you to stay home.
Lyndon Johnson, the Democratic candidate, won the 1964 election by a landslide. But this isn't just about fear-mongering, and it's not ancient history.
When Vladimir Putin decided to invade Ukraine, he started calling Volodymyr Zelensky a Nazi. In the ensuing news stories, the U.S. press would always point out that Zelensky was Jewish, because to Americans the original Nazis, not the grammar Nazis or feminazis or neo-Nazis, are the ones who killed Jews.
To Russians, however, Nazi doesn't mean killed Jews. The Nazis were the ones who invaded Russia.
Different groups can hear different messages from the same words. Media researchers call this the receiver effect. Think of it as dog whistle on steroids.
Meanwhile, back in the United States, election pundits and the lamestream media can't figure out why candidate Trump keeps talking about Hannibal Lecter. He must be getting senile and mixing up the actor with the character. No. He must be stupid and doesn't know there are 2 definitions of the word asylum. No.
What are they supposed to make to these endless tributes to the late, great Hannibal Lecter? I mean, President Obama once gave me the great honor of saying I was the explainer-in-chief. Folks, I've thought and thought about it, and I don't know what to say.
Candidate Trump knows there are 2 definitions of the word asylum, but when his constituents hear the word asylum, he doesn't want them to think of families fleeing violence and poverty and yearning to breathe free. He wants them to think of wild-eyed men in straitjackets, yearning to eat your liver.
If candidate Trump talks about Hannibal Lecter enough, and his constituents hear that name enough, they will think about straitjackets whenever they hear the word asylum. Psychologists call this priming. Eventually, there will be an implicit association between refugees and mental patients.
Repeat after me. Silk, silk, silk.
Silk, silk, silk.
What do cows drink?
Milk.
Cows drink water. They give milk.
Both Vladimir Putin and candidate Trump are using a classic technique sometimes called Music Man. If you create or exaggerate a problem, the scarier the better, people will hire you to solve it.
The weather, of course, when it's in season.
Now, Mars, I need some ideas. If I'm going to get your town out of the serious trouble it's in.
River City ain't in any trouble.
Well, then I have to create some. Must create a desperate need in your town for a boys' band. So why does everybody keep rubbering into the billiard parlor?
Oh, they just got in a new pool table.
They must have seen a pool table before.
No, just billiards.
That'll do it. You just sit where you are, and remember, if you see that music teacher,
Humans are hardwired to pay attention to danger. Neuroscientists call this negativity bias.
Danger doesn't just make your heart beat faster, however, it also makes you remember. Neuroscientists call this arousal-enhanced memory. And since your mind is put into emergency mode, you remember, but you don't really analyze.
The vote of the people. Like Ronald Reagan, I believe in the exceptions. I am a person that believes. And frankly, I think it's important to believe in the exceptions. Some people, you have to follow your heart. Some people don't believe in that. But I believe in the exceptions for rape, incest, and the life of the mother. I think it's very important. Some people don't. Follow your heart. But you have to get elected also. And because that has to do with other things. You got to get elected. The problem they have is they're radical because they will take the life of a child in the 8th month, the 9th month, and even after birth. After birth, if you look at the former governor of Virginia.
Candidate Trump just said, "I'm a person who believes," followed by a lot of shocking words, including "kill the baby." The voters who find baby killing plausible and the most shocking are the ones most likely to remember that statement.
In the vice presidential debate, running mate Vance assured us 3 times that he believed. It was his last statement, which makes it easy to remember.
I humbly ask for your vote on November 5th for Kamala Harris.
Governor Walz, thank you. Senator Vance, your closing statement.
Well, I want to thank Governor Walz, you folks at CBS, and of course the American people for tuning in this evening. And one of the issues we didn't talk about was energy. And I remember when I was being raised by my grandmother, when she didn't have enough money to turn on the heat some nights because Ohio gets pretty cold at night and because money was often very tight. And I believe, as a person who wants to be your next vice president, that we are a rich and prosperous enough country where every American, whether they're rich or poor, ought to be able to turn on their heat in the middle of a cold winter night. That's gotten more difficult thanks to Kamala Harris's energy policies. I believe that whether you're rich or poor, you ought to be able to afford a nice meal for your family. That's gotten harder because of Kamala Harris's policies. I believe that whether you're rich or poor, you ought to be able to afford to buy a house. You ought to be able to live in safe neighborhoods. You ought to not have your communities flooded with fentanyl. And that, too, has gotten harder with because of Kamala Harris's policies. Now, I've been in politics long enough.
In this video, we discuss the receiver effect, priming, implicit association, the Music Man technique, arousal-enhanced memory, and recency bias. In the next video, we'll look at neighborliness,